All right, this meeting is being recorded. So here we are. We are about to get some pragmatic ways of looking at a chart. Without any further ado, I am going to share my screen, I hope, and get right over here. So I've called up a few charts today. Let me just move these. Let's look at our BEM. Move this all the way. Okay. First thing, a couple of, of pragmatic things I want to try to get across when we look at a chart. So first thing, you kind of defocus your eyes and just look at the whole chart and see what you notice.
Carrie, I'm not seeing it. It did not share.
Okay, thank you. Your screen share is paused. Why is that paused? Try now. It's not resuming. Come on. I'm going to stop and then re-share it. Share. Share. All right, see if that one's, if it's come up now.
I have it.
All right, we're good. Okay, so first thing you kind of do when you look at a chart is defocus your eyes a little bit and just see the whole chart. Just kind of get a little idea of it without judging it. You know, just look at it as a pattern, because it's a pattern of a soul. It's a pattern of coming in to this physicalness from not, you know, you weren't an individual entity yet. You were still part of your mother. And then at that moment that you came out, that's when you were you started to be. And that's where the influx of all of these planets, this gravitational lineup, this pull, these angles affected you. This is like kind of your pattern of imprint into this universe. So these are the things that we need to do. These are the impressions that we get upon us. This is the mold that is formed by that cosmic sound, those frequencies upon you, forms upon you as you then come right into this universe, because you are, you know, protected in your mother. You're in a jelly fluid. You're not you yet. Of course, you're forming, but that when you're out now you are acted upon more directly by all these forces without the mother being the barrier, being the interface. All right, so first thing, we kind of look at the whole thing. And on this chart, this person is, except for the moon, everything is above the horizon. And this would be a person that would have more about their career and what they do in life than about their family. And interesting that we have the moon is the only one below. And if we just remember some of the patterns that we've studied, at least this one rings out. Sometimes they won't always, but this one seems like one of those bucket patterns, or a fan, or what you want to call it, you know, where everything is on one side and then there's a handle. So this is really interesting because the handle then becomes a key point to that bucket. It's the handle of that bucket. That's a major out point, or something that is opposing all of those other planets over there. I mean, it's the handle of it, or it's the one part that's opposite of all that. So this person, we see all these planets above the horizon. We see the moon below, and the moon in the second house in Capricorn. Okay, so moon in Capricorn. So I'm now starting to, so what you want to just kind of start noticing what you notice, and then we'll get more pragmatic. But this is my first thought with you, is opening up a chart. So we're looking at that, and then we're kind of seeing, all right, that moon is like the first thing that's striking me as odd, because it's away from all that. It's to handle the bucket, and it's okay, or that planet there. But then I happen to look, and it's the moon, and they go, oh, okay. And then the moon is in a crusty sign. The moon is in Capricorn. So I'm already starting to see, I don't want to say a problem, but yeah, we've got something going on here, Houston, you know. So I'm gonna put a little thought in my mind about that, that there might be something on that, something about that. Okay. Then looking at everything, I noticed, you know, I want to see where the sun is. That's kind of like the first thing I would actually look for, other than just zeroing in, seeing the, zeroing or moving out, seeing the whole thing. Now start to focus back in. And the sun, of course, I want to see what this person is, their sun sign. And I say, okay, we got Scorpio. Okay. Now that kind of interesting. And then I see Mercury right there next to it. You know, sometimes it's not so obvious, but we know Mercury is really always close to the sun, either the same sign, the sign prior, or the sign after. Mercury will never be farther than that away from the sun. So we got it in the same sign of the sun. And then we notice, like, well, then that's kind of like a real focused, or that intellect is focused, and it's in Scorpio. So there's going to be like a real pinpointed, focused, laser focused, specialist or something. And then noticing that that's in the 12th house. Okay, just noticing that. And then I see that Scorpio's rising as well. So like, okay, even more super focusedness. So then now we've got the sun and the rising sign being in the same sign, and Mercury. So there's a pretty good emphasis here on this focusedness. So I'm seeing focusedness, and then I'm seeing a crusty moon opposite of everything else. Okay, so that's the first couple things I'm seeing. Then I'm going to just start looking around the chart, just kind of look around, broaden it. I look around, I see a cluster of stuff right up at the midheaven. I see Venus in the 10th house. So that's going to be, that person is going to value work, value order, and it's in Virgo. So it's, it's in a sign that it rules. I shouldn't say not that it rules, but that it's compatible with Venus, being the Virgin, or Virgo, the Virgin, and then Venus on that side. So it gets along, but I'm trying to get the best way to say this. Venus would rather relax a bit rather than being so hypercritical. So this is putting that hypercriticalness in the 10th house. So this person's values is hypercritical or health oriented. And then there's a Neptune over there. It's far away in another sign, it's a little bit away, but that's interesting there. So there's some kind of vision in that career or that life. All right, moving around, what else strikes at me? So I'm just kind of looking at now, just things. So I wanted to know the sun, the rising, sun, moon, rising. That kind of gives me a flavor of the person. And then I'm going to just see where those inner planets are, see where their values and their mind are. We already saw Mercury right there. Now I'm going to see where Venus, which we saw there. And then Venus, and Neptune, they're the planets that are the dreamer, the other, the higher benefics. Neptune is a higher octave of Venus there. So it's interesting that they're different signs, but they're in the same house, in the house of, how the occupation or others out in the world. All right, then I'd like to know the couple of other things. I want to know where Saturn is, and then where Mars is, of course. And then I'm looking, they're together. They're in the same sign. They're not totally conjunct, but they're close. They're 5 degrees away. And then there's Uranus over there, just noting that. And I'm seeing it's in Gemini, okay? And then in the 7th house, I think in the 7th house strikes me more than anything. Whenever I see a cluster of planets in the 7th house there, I'm going to think that there's going to be some kind of issues or something with relationships. There's something there. We've got the stage, now we put the actors in it. So here we've got some kind of I would say difficult relationship with people because of the Mars and Saturn. If maybe, looking at it being Gemini, there'd be work would revolve around professional relationships, or relationships would revolve around work because of those two together in that sign with Gemini there. And then Uranus being there is just a wild card. That's what I would just say. It's just a wild card. All right. That's kind of the first glimpse. So you look at the whole pie. then you see what you see, anything that strikes you. And that's kind of where I look at the patterns that we've looked at, the different patterns, the bucket, the bowl, the locomotive, the seesaw, the splay, the splash. Those are some of the major ones. See if there's anything that of those types of patterns. And then notice the sun and, why is that there? The sun and the rising sign. That gives you a flavor of who they are and how they present it to the world. And the moon, it gives you the emotional flavor. And then I like to look at not only Mercury, you know, because it's right there next to the sun. So Mercury would then give you how their mind works. And then you go see where Venus is, their values. And then I like to see where some of the harsher planets are. Now, before we look at anything else, that's just one of the things I want to point out to you. And this one thing is bugging me here. It keeps coming up there. All right, that's fading away. Thank goodness. All right, so that's kind of the first overview. And then it keeps coming in and out. What else do you want to look at that before I bounce off? Actually, let's move on. Let me give you another one. And that was fine, and it just came up. Okay, so now I've got another person. This one is Michael Jackson. So again, we're going to look at the whole thing and see what we see. And, you know, the first thing for me is this cluster all over there in the 6th house. Wow, this is a dumb thing here. Bear with me a second. That is bugging me. All righty. Bear with me. Sorry here to get this in a better. I am not sure why it's coming up. It just bugs me when it does. I apologize for that. All right, but anyway, so the big thing I'm seeing here is this cluster, you know, in the 6th house. So that almost more than anything is the first thing that jumps out at me. And then I see the moon over here. If I'm trying to get around this dumb little window, the moon over here in the 1st house, in Pisces, in a Pisces rising. That kind of like speaks even louder than, and then I go, oh, what's the sun then? And it's like, oh, it's in Virgo. Oh, so we got some opposition. Just jumping out at me right away. You know what? I'm going to stop sharing and maybe I'm going to reshare this. Hold on. Don't know what's that all about. Okay, sometimes the software, I don't know. All right, so back to this. The moon over there. So look also how big these houses are. Okay, so how wide these houses. And this is, you know, when we do it to this system, we take into account the warp of the planet. So he was born in Gary, Indiana. You know, that's fairly wide. I've seen some further north that are even more wide, but it just so happens the time of day and where he was born made this a very large 1st and 7th house. So that to me is also going to scream pretty loud. Those are going to be very big stages of this person's life. They've got a real big 1st house. It's all about them. Big thing about them. I mean, there's not many planets. The moon in Pisces there doesn't take much, but it's a big area. And then of course, opposite of that, relationships. So there's a big area for working out personal, your own persona, and then others having that really pitted against you. Is it all about you or is it about others? And then just another interesting thing I'm just seeing there is that North Node in the 7th house. So North Node in the 7th house. So we've got moving toward some type of balance in relationships with partners, because look at there, it's in Libra. So very interesting there. All right, so now back to our beginning. We kind of, you know, you look at and see the first things that hit you, of course. You know, that just is helping you to get an intuitive sense of things, but then you need to kind of a structure. So then go look again at the sun, moon, rising. And we kind of noted that the sun is opposite the rising. So we know that there's going to be some kind of a push-pull, more extremes with this personality. You know, we have not only the first house, seventh house thing going on here, but we got a first house or the rising sign with the sun opposition there. So that's, you know, the mask to the world is different than the person, than the person. The mask to the world is way different than the person underneath. And then that person underneath is definitely a hard worker and very meticulous, you know, Virgo in the Virgo house, the sun in the house of Virgo. Okay. What else then jumps out? So we're going to look at the Mercury, and then that's a little bit away. It's the next sign, you know, it's close to the sun. No, it's not. As far as, see, it's 6 degrees the sun, and it's all the way. It's it's the next sign. It's the end of the next sign. 25 degrees. It's retrograde there. Okay, so it moved retro. So got a Mercury retro. So very born with Mercury retrograde. So things are just going to be different for this person. It's almost like when Mercury's retro for everybody, they're comfortable. They're not comfortable with some of that until Mercury retro. So there's a little bit of mind differences there. And then Venus, the values. Well, we noticed that it was in the next sign too of Leo. And then the values, Venus is in Leo as well. So that person likes fine things, kingly, queenly things, but detailed and meticulous, or likes, you know, the stage in a certain way. And then there's Uranus, another wild card. And that's kind of interesting. Didn't we see that with the last chart? Wasn't there Uranus kind of in that group over there? It was a little wild card. I think, let me go look again. Yeah, the Uranus in that last person's chart was there with that little cluster, but next to Mars. All right. All right, back to Michael. All right, so we see this little crew here, you know, this little conglomeration, this stellium, kind of a double stellium, 2 planets in one sign and 3 planets in another sign, all grouped together in this one house. Look at that. Uranus in this house. 5 planets there. So I would say there's a little bit of emphasis on that. Probably really, really, you know, there's a lot of work. This was a life of work, born into a life of being work. And then knowing that it's Michael Jackson, but not even so, I would want to go look at the 10th house. And look at there, with that big career, you would expect to find all this stuff in the 10th house, and you don't see one planet there, but you have Saturn right on the midheaven. I mean, it's pretty close here. What's the degree? Let me move that. Saturn, look at that. It is right on the midheaven. And then based on the good birth time, I mean, birth times, I don't know how good they all are. You know, if you had people that were aware of it and really on it. So I kind of take the birth time with a little grain of salt. It could have been a few minutes here or there, but the point is, looking at Saturn that close, Saturn could have been on the other side. Saturn could very rightly, look, it's only 7 minutes off. So I'm not going to take that as in stone because that's so close. Saturn could be in the 10th house, but nonetheless, it's still at the midheaven. I would almost kind of tend to think that it would be in the 7th house. If we moved it a little bit, tweaked that, it may be. But anyway, we're just going to just treat it like it's just right there up at the midheaven. I mean, it's so right there that is like the taskmaster. You know, it emphasizes that this person his life is all about their career. And it's interesting that it's in Sagittarius there, which is that expansiveness, newness, just a whole out there reach. And knowing Michael Jackson, he definitely was out there, was Sagittarian in so many different ways. So this is, you know, definitely a very interesting chart. And we know from his life that he was very troubled. You know, he had multiple surgeries because he didn't like the way he looked. And we have, you know, right there, Moon in Pisces, right on the ascendant, right there in the 1st house. So that would just really mask, hide, change the identity. And that person was just is not comfortable with their identity. It was had to hide things, had to change it, the changing moon, all the surgeries, lightening the skin, saying it's this and it's that, all that identity, uh, strangeness, hidden, all that stuff. Okay. I don't want to go too deep into all these, but I just wanted to give you some kind of a way to roll out to look at things pragmatically. All right, what else with this one? So most of the planets here are then on the right side of the chart are on this fourth to 10th house going up on this side. We have 5, 6, 7 as opposed to 3 on the other side. So very others oriented. Even though the moon is a big part of that person, it's still all about others, pleasing others, working with others. He grew up in a big family, had lots of brothers and sisters, was in the Jackson 5, his brothers, and then all about his fans the rest of his life. And then the thing with the children and, just on and on. So yeah, that's how we would look at that. Oh, and then Mars. Let's go look at Mars too. Mars down here in the second house. We noticed, and it's in Taurus. So Taurus is it's in its Taurus is where it should be, in that type of a chart. It's where it likes to be, I should say. Taurus in the second house. That's where it's the natural house of Taurus, the second house. So it's comfortable there. But Mars, it's not as strong there on one level. I should say it's not as strong in its fiery way, but it makes it strong in its ability to have lasting results, staying power. So, and then staying power with material world and wealth. So he, became even more wealthy on his own, after the Jackson 5, he's Michael Jackson. So that created his own worth. So that is very powerful in that house and that placement. All right, moving on. Let's look at Bill Gates. He's starting to become one of the most hated men in the world. And let's look at this. So we're seeing this, and we see another strange kind of configuration here. We see, again, a bucket pattern, and with the moon involved. So we have most of the planets beneath the horizon this time, and we have the moon in the 10th house. So, that's the first thing that would kind of jump out at me. Not only all the planets below the horizon, but then that moon in the 10th house in Aries. Moon in the 10th house would seem kind of a underhanded thing to me. I mean, a moon is, in this case, being that it's against anything else, but that it's kind of just like a glaring, what would be the best word? It's just glaring at me, and then in the chart, it just jumps out more than anything else. Let me stop the share. That thing is weird again. Let me go back. All right. So moon being there in Aries by itself. So that would be some temper also. The moon in Aries, there's gonna be a temper. And then we've got some, and it would almost be, and in here in the 10th house, kind of tyrannical temper. It's like, it just has to be your way, totally. And fanatical, there's the word I'm looking for, fanatical. And then look at interesting here. It's got an opposition, and I'm looking at this right away. It's jumping out here. I'm seeing moon opposite Mars. So for me, that's kind of like one of the main themes. Look, it's like, oh, it's 2 degrees off. It's pretty close. Moon opposite Mars. I think that would even be more fiery. We'll go back there in a minute. Okay. So anyway, moon there opposite Mars is kind of a big deal. It's the handle of the bucket. It's like all of that energy down here would get funneled over there. That seems like what's the volatile, there we go, volatile part of this chart to me as I look at that right now. All right, I'm noticing another big lineup here. We've got 4, almost 5, because this one's pretty close. Let's see, well, no, this one's 20 degrees and the cusp is 12. All right, so we've got 4 planets down here, 3 in one sign. We got a nice little cluster in Libra. We've got the sun in Scorpio. And then we see other planets, but in the next house in Scorpio, we've got Venus, values, and then Saturn. Venus and Saturn right next to each other. Ew. That's almost as creepy as the moon opposing Mars. I mean, that we got volatile, and then we've got a conjunction here with these two. So this is not, Venus is not happy being next to Mars or being next to Saturn, especially in Scorpio. So this just seems really dark. It's in the 5th house, which is creations. So this is going to be like, to me, it's like some creepy creations, something in the long run, and then being scorpionic, you know, beneath the surface. And now we have this surfacing all about the vaccines, all the negative effects of what they do, his vaccine, his control, what he's in the eugenics project, how he wants to, he's admitted that he wants to reduce population. So that kind of seems how that's playing out when I look at that now, but that's knowing what I know. All right, let's go on. So we have this, we got the sun here, and then we've got the moon and Aries. So we've got the sun and the moon are, you know, they're close degrees. So we got an in conjunct with that. So that's kind of odd too. It's another thing that's popping out. And I haven't focused on angles too much yet, but certainly you have to look at what pops out at you. So this is just some of these odd things that are just popping out at me while I'm starting to look pragmatically, go look at the sun. But then I just noticed that it's, you know, not in a harmonious way with the moon, and the moon's already not in a harmonious way with Mars. So we've already got a lot of noise going on, you know, this, and then Venus is not happy over there with Saturn. So to me, when I'm looking at a chart, these are the little stories and the little things that are starting to squawk. All right, so then I didn't even get over to the rising. So rising, you know, there's this really nice Cancer rising, but it could be very, very controlling. Cancer in manipulating, especially is the face or the mask to the world, and then especially with Uranus there. So we have a disruptive planet in the next sign. It's not even in the same sign as the ascendant. So it's in the 1st house. We have a disruptive planet in Leo. Something is just going to want to be the first at something, to, you know, to, it's almost a maniacal way. It's going to be driving this from underneath the surface. It's like hidden, but it's just there and loud, but not, it's hiding under this manipulative Cancer rising surface. This is not a nice Cancer rising here because of this disruptive energy here. If Pluto were here, it would be similar, but I'm looking over here now in the 2nd house. Look at this. Here we have Pluto next to Jupiter. So he's transformed something into big money, and this is in a big way. I mean, Microsoft is part of everybody's daily life, you know, and that's in his 2nd house. So there is the big stuff, and then it's up here in who he is. So whatever is going on, we've got a big 10th house, got a big 4th house. We've got these things in the 2nd that would allude to making big money. We have a weird Venus relationship, and now we see what's going on with him. His wife is finding out about his ties with Epstein and other hideous things that he's done, and wants to get away from that. I don't know about her. I haven't investigated her, but I know I've investigated him a lot, and it's not a real nice character. Looking at the moon nodes, it's in the 5th house as well, along with this. So where he's going to is, you know, he's trying to do these, that's his creations. He's trying to make this icky creation for eugenics. This is, you know, I'm not sure exactly how, I mean, there's so much more on that, but this is a, you know, this is an interesting spot with the moon node being in with this whole house with an unhappy Venus right there in Scorpio next to Saturn. All right. What else do we see about this one? The emphasis here is definitely below the horizon. So that's, again, that undercurrent of things that that reinforces that manipulation. And then we have this explosive moon energy on the top. And then we get with this, and then it just hits off, ping, 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 going on. All right, let's move on. Did I get another one? Oh, let's look at this guy. Anthony Fauci, another one in the news now. Let's take a look at his lousy ass. Sorry. Okay. We've got, what is this? One more. I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to get to that. Okay, so looking at this one, we get the big picture, and this one is kind of a little bit of a seesaw pattern, but we've got one oddball over here. You see, we've got a big space over here, 10th, 11th, and 12th house. We've got the sun right up at the top. If this is, oh, well, you know what? This is not a good birth time because I put it at noon. So actually, I don't really want to use that one because if I put it at noon, I don't know the birth time. All right, so let's just do one without knowing the birth time. So we can't say now a rising or the placement. Then we don't know because I just stuck it here at noon because I didn't have the right birth time. But let's see what we can see. So what we do notice is, say, the sun and Mercury, they would be close, but they're in the next sign. One was, it's moved on and it's moved into the next sign. All right. We got a Capricorn. Okay, so the moon could be, moon may not be in Scorpio. The moon, if it were earlier, so like I said this at noon, but if it were earlier, it could have been into, let's see. Yeah, it could have been into Libra because it's just barely into Scorpio here. So, okay, so we don't know about that. Well, it's a question mark though, so we kind of don't know. But let's just see what you can see. That's what you have to just look at when you don't know the actual birth time. All right, so go back to Venus then. It's like Venus, it's 30 degrees, it's a semi-sextile away from the sun. Okay, so its values, so the values here of this person, we've got a Sagittarian area, and then we got Mars, different yet, Scorpio. So interesting here, we kind of got a little, starting to spread out. Whatever it was, this person is kind of spread out. I'm noticing a cluster down here, the only other cluster of things in Taurus, because this is generational. This is not going to change. We just don't know what house it's in, these things, but we do see a kind of a wide conjunction here with Saturn and Jupiter. And we know that they do a dance, they have their conjunction and their opposition, they have their whole pattern. And when he was born here, they were fairly close. They were almost in their conjunction. So he was, during this era where these two planets were conjuncting. So that's an interesting, I don't know why that's blinking at me, but that's just an interesting part of that dance when those two planets, which we're just dealing with some of their stuff now, but they were conjunct here. And then they're right in this, when he was born, they're both retrograde, the retrograde conjunction of these two. That's probably the first thing that would jump out to me, not knowing the true time. If I'm looking just at just interesting things in this chart, these two planets, because we know that they have their cyclic dance, the fact that they're conjunct, but then they're in the retrograde of the conjunction. So there's going to be a little bit of when I see that, like a big things gone awry, values, somebody botching values, misuse of value, trying to think of some adjectives on those words. And again, I don't know the house, so I can't, I'm just trying to limit it with both of those being conjunct, but being in retrograde. And then look at there, Uranus is retrograde there as well into the mix. So we've also got some sudden upside down values. We have big things, being Jupiter, because they're in Taurus. So there's some value, there's some stubbornness, there's some earthy type money values. Because they're all retrograde, there just makes me feel that they're sly, that it's, and both of them, because they're those two, it's not a real nice forward moving energy. And then with Uranus there, adds more of that disruption to this. And then look at more, we've got retro with Pluto too. So more retrograde energy, more backward energy, more energy being disrupted, with all of the retrogrades. But interesting, Mercury is direct. So, and it's not real close to the sun, but it's, sometimes the closer to the sun, the more it can burn it out. All right, so he's probably got, okay, so one thing that's about him, he just has such that voice. I wonder if he always had that real, like he sounds like he's got something on his vocal cords. It'd be interesting to know where this is, but having it maybe be the next sign up from the sun. Let's look and see what conflict. Oh, there we go. Here's something there. Look at that. Oh, okay, now we start seeing things. 22 degrees, and then we got another 22 degrees. So there's some resonant things at 22 degrees here with this person. And then we've got an inconjunct with Mercury and Uranus. And then what do we have? An opposition here. Yeah, we got an opposition with Uranus and Mars. And then we got a semi-sextile over here. So that's kind of neighbors that don't really get along. So yeah, there's a strange little thing going on with that. We've got Uranus, Mercury, and Mars all in a odd position here. And I got an opposition and with an inconjunct. Ew, it's not real nice. What else going on? Got another inconjunct with the sun and Pluto. So we've got regeneration gone awry, kind of. His work, who he is, that the transformation has not been a good thing for what he's working, for what his personality, for what he's shining out to the world. At least knowing what I know now, but just seeing that in conjunction to Pluto is not, with the sun, and then Pluto in an inconjunct, is sort of like forced in a negative way. All right, brings me a okay. All right, so did I get anybody else here? All right, so let me go see if there's anything in the chat. Is everything in? Okay, so we had retro. Okay, what is the result of a moon node being in retrograde? Moon nodes, they always have that effect. That's the way they move. Is this chart, everything in the bottom house is retrograde? Yeah, those are just some definite things that you can start picking up on charts. Let me get back to share screen. I think I can do it from here. Get some other charts wanted to look at. Go there. Let's look at who is this one? Barbara Walters. There we go. This is another interesting Oh, no, it's not the one I thought that was. No, it's not who I wanted. Come on. Well, let's just look at this one. I wanted Barbara Walters, but there's somebody else. Somebody else. Barber Walter. Walter Barber. I don't know. I don't know who this is, but let's just look at the chart. Interesting again. We see this similar pattern. I just pulled one out. We've got this sort of bucket pattern. And this person is being opposed by this Jupiter. So good. I'm glad we got one that's still different here. All right. So that's the first thing I see, that we got all this above the horizon, and then something in their creative area here is opposing all of that. So something, and then it's retrograde. So something big. This will be interesting to check out this person's life. You know, Jupiter big in Pisces, some kind of dream or imagination, retrograde in the 5th house. Maybe spent a lot of money. Maybe the dream didn't quite work out. Maybe it was, you know, that's what I'm getting with that. Maybe the bigness somehow was small. Maybe he made something smaller, brought something to fruition. And we have to look up that person, but we're just looking at how to look at a chart today. All right, then we kind of look at everything else there. And I'm in my mind, I kind of automatically see some opposing here. I'm seeing 16 degrees, and we just go right over and are opposing Saturn with Mercury. Look at, one is perfect there, one's at 16 right there, Jupiter and Saturn. And now this one, look at this, the last one was it Fauci, it was at that conjunct, and this person is in the opposition part of this cycle, Saturn Jupiter cycle. And then Mercury's over here as well. So we've got this odd opposition here, 5th, 11th, so something with friends or others maybe interfered. And then we've got the you know, Saturn with Mercury in Virgo. So we got some kind of busyness there. All right, but that seems like the theme, one of the first themes to me, jumping out. All right, so sometimes you find stuff before you even look at the sun or anything. So then we go over and look at the sun. Okay, we're in Leo, and I know I just can't help but notice we got this cluster of Leo stuff right at the midheaven. So I'm getting like this person is all about their career and maybe bringing forth this invention or this idea or this creation of some sorts. Because it's like right on the midheaven too. Look at Venus. What they value is right on the midheaven, and it's in Leo, a kingly, queenly thing. A little wide conjunction to Mars. You know, they're kind of doing that little cosmic dance, and over there at the sun. I'm almost thinking, to me, when I'm getting so far, is like almost. All right. Get back over to finding other things. Okay, so the rising sign, we've got a Scorpio rising, so focused, and then the moon there. Oh man, moon in Scorpio. We have to look this person up. So this one seems very intriguing. So moon there, again, another interesting, we saw another, you know, odd placement here of the moon, you know, with that personality. I think that Michael Jackson, you have it there. There's the moon. Yep, his moon was there in the 1st house. So this person, their moon, the 1st house. Again, maybe something with their identity, something hidden. You know, we got Scorpio here, or Michael Jackson had Pisces, you know, and then there's Scorpio rising, moon in Scorpio. And then we got the strange Uranus in the Pisces house in Libra. So that's odd. I mean, it's just a little odd fella over there. All right, let's go look around at the other side of the chart. What else we got? Oh, look at that. Look at this conjunction here of Pluto and Neptune right at 8 degrees in Gemini. And then the North Node is close to there. Wow. Very interesting. All right, so just that conjunction of that dream with the practicalness of death, rebirth, of transformation, that Plutonic stuff, and it's in the Scorpio house, you know. Then so Pluto would be happy here, and but being right there next to this dreamy Neptune and being in that mutable sign This is kind of slippery. This is definitely interesting. This is slippery. All right, we got to look this person up. I think I want to do that real quick and before we stop so we can know who this person is. Oh, let me get a can look at that, and I'll look at a browser real quick. Walter Bear. All right, let's see. I wonder if hopefully we can get it, and I'll get over there as soon as I can. Hold on. Gotta spell it right. Barbar. B-A-R. B-A-R-E. All right. Who's this? Interesting. Okay, so let me stop share, and then I'll get on my new screen share. And we'll look at this person. Yeah, August 1891. So we got the right person here. If we're at the right one. Yeah, I thought it was 1891. Let me look again. August 11th, 1891. Okay. We have a baseball player here. Was a third baseman shortstop who played for these people. Okay, 8-season career. I'll say a solid, what's interesting about him? A solid infielder with a strong right arm and light bat. Was a utility man. This one's not telling me a whole lot about him. Just a little bit. What else? Why is he interesting? Society for American Baseball Research. He spent 8 years in Major League Baseball. I have to look this up later. Let's see if there's just one more here. Okay, it's not giving me a whole lot about what's going on. I'll have to look that up later. Anyway, be interesting to look that up in light. So let's see if we have any more questions over here. All right. So to wrap it up, give you a little pragmatic thing, see the chart, just kind of look at the whole thing and just see what starts popping out at you. Usually like the pattern kind of recognition, where are things? And then if nothing makes sense or anything, then just start looking right away at, go look at the sun, go look at the rising, go look at the moon. But then again, if you have one if you don't have the right birth time, then you just have to start looking at the planets, and you can see the shape, but you can't know the houses or where it's at, but you can still see the shape. So if you have a good birth time, it's really, really much better to do that, to see it so you can see how everything is. So go see sun, moon, rising, notice where the planets are, look for any degree things, oh, these are all at 6 degrees, or this is, oh, look at this. See anything else that pops out at you, an oddball planet, maybe a whole cluster of planets, and then start looking at some of the angles, starting to get like, oh, there's all these odd angles, or this is all this cool trine stuff, or whatever it is. So that way you can start to unpack the chart, no matter what kind of a chart you're looking at, whether you're looking at a birth chart, a progress chart, a hooray chart, any chart, you're just looking at that energy, what it is. So unless I have any more chat, I think I'm going to wind it from here, wind it down. All right. So happy chart reading, and we'll see you next time. Bye.